You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for hitting that play button. This is another episode of the Dave Bullis Podcast. So I finally got the power back here in Philly, and if you can believe it, I was without power and water for both Friday and most of Saturday with the water, but they eventually came back on. So I got hit both ways with that snowstorm, which was unbelievable, and it came out of nowhere. So the podcast is a day late. It'll be worth it, I promise. Two quick things before we get to the show. I have posted a really, really funny Facebook album that I found online, and it just goes along with the danger of hiring people just because they have the gear, which I always talk about. Don't hire somebody just because they have a good DSLR or camera package. And the fact that this person, this photographer, charged for this, and then that the person, the customer, actually paid for it is equally as ridiculous. And it's all true, and you should just, I don't want to ruin it for you. So if you go to the show notes at davebullis.com, you're going to see in the pre-show notes, you're going to see exactly what the hell I'm talking about. And it is so ridiculous that somebody would actually turn this in and claim that they're a professional. It's just, it's again, it goes without, it's too hilarious for words. And I really don't want to spoil any of it. And I also made a collection of writing advice, screenwriting advice, writing advice from different Tarantino videos. And it runs about 40 minutes, and I made a little presentation with it. So if you're interested in me doing more of those types of things, let me know, because really I have these videos, and I just kind of spliced it together with, stuff I've already listened to. And, the feedback I've gotten thus far, people seem to really take to it. So, again, if you are interested in me doing more of that, let me know. And also, again, if you want to support this podcast, the easiest way, and the free way, too, is just to rate and review on iTunes. It helps everybody out so freaking much, and I keep urging everybody to please give a review on iTunes. Hopefully 5 stars, and it really helps out the show. And on this week's show, speaking of which, we have 2 great guests. They're a husband and wife team who were both from North Carolina, and now they both live out in Los Angeles. They started their own film production company called Sunshine Boy Productions in 2015, and even before that, the husband was a Nicole Fellowship semifinalist, a 2-time Script Pipeline Top 20 finalist, a Tracking Board Recommend. He's won a ton of other screenwriting competitions, and they went out to L.A. and they started to produce their own films, and they finally now are going to produce their own film, which is called Heartless, which we're going to talk about in the show. And we talk about all these different things about putting together packages, about attracting investors, about how you do all this other stuff. And, they're a husband and wife team who work together. Do they kill each other? Are they plotting each other's, they plot each other's demise, like almost like a movie? We're going to talk about all that good stuff on this week's episode of the podcast. So this is episode 207 with guests Jennifer and Kevin Sluder.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Yeah, I'm in Philly. I think it's like 20 degrees outside right now.
Yeah, but you got all that warmth from that Super Bowl championship, so that'll carry you through the long, cold winter, man.
Yeah, the fires of the city burning down are kind of out by now.
Yeah, no doubt.
When they had gone, when they won the Super Bowl, the people were actually messaging me like, "You're not out in that, are you?" And I was like, "No, I know way better than that." I said the people out in that were just either they didn't know any better, or they were so plastered they didn't know where they were, because it was unbelievable. Because like I have friends and they were posting videos on their Facebooks, like people were out in the street firing their guns and stuff and like that.
Yeah, we had that back when the Lakers won the NBA Finals, and we were out in a bar, and man, there was this energy because everybody knew they were going to win, and then they did win, and I just turned to Jen, I was like, we need to go home. The game was cool, but let's go home. Let's go home, because we were on Hollywood Boulevard, so it was a little bit of a drive. So I was like, all right, let's book it now.
And we made it home safely.
Yeah, we did. But yeah.
That's smart. That's very smart.
Self-preservation.
Yeah, seriously. So you got to be some of these crowds, man. People get so excited. So, just to get started, I know you both went to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I just wanted to ask: did you guys actually meet while you were both attending the school?
Yeah, we met sophomore year, and then we started dating junior year. Finally wore her down, and she said yes, and we went out, and the rest is history. Got married 5 years after that, and we've been together since then. 20 years of marriage and 25 years of everything else.
Well, the reason I ask is I saw that you both went to the same college, and I figured, well, either they met on set or they met at college. So I figured I had a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So, what were some of the things that you actually took away from? I know, going to film school or going to college in general is something I talk about a lot on this podcast. But, while we're on the topic, what were some of the things that you both took away from at your time in college?
Well, on the film school side, it was interesting because North Carolina didn't have a straight-on film degree, kind of like USC and schools like that. But I took away a lot of film theory. There weren't a lot of practical applications. There were like editing classes, and I took a directing class, took an acting class, took a few screenwriting classes, but it wasn't kind of the hands-on make a film kind of film school that you have at AFI and USC and UCLA out here. I took away a knowledge about why films are made and what they're trying to say, and I think that's kind of stood up over time, as well as the writing experience. But it was a cool experience. It was actually a radio, television, motion pictures degree, so I got a wide range of education.
Yeah, and my education there actually wasn't in film. A lot of people who know me in my filmmaking capacity are not aware that actually my day job is pediatrician. So I went to college and medical school at UNC and met Kevin in undergrad. But I did have a love of film at that time. We both took movie criticism classes together, and there's a funny story because our first movie date that we took, that Kevin took me to.
This might be one of those things that we should stay away from, Dave.
No, I'm going to tell it. The first one he took me to at a movie criticism class that we both shared was Clockwork Orange.
Good job,
Kev. Great date film.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was like a classic, well-known film, and I thought, she loves film, I love film. It was Kubrick.
You got to see it, right?
It was a Kubrick Scorsese, which was a really cool film theory class when you get to watch Kubrick and Scorsese for a month. But that was one I went to and took her.
Date night.
Yeah, good job, Kat. Actually, afternoon date. My TA gave me a ton. I walked in and the TA was like, so did everybody enjoy the film? And Kevin, did your date enjoy the film? I was like, oh man. It lasted. It lasted.
I was waiting for you to turn to Jennifer and she'd going, well, that was something. All right.
Yeah, that kind of happened, but we're over it now.
So, Jennifer, were you saying to him, so what was going on in that film? It was why would you take me to see that?
Clearly, it's such a romantic story.
Yeah. Hopefully, we've gone to some more couple-friendly films over our 25 years. I try to start on a low point, and just work my way up from there.
I guess it was fate, though, because here we are in Los Angeles producing horror films, so that kind of makes sense, actually, now I think about it.
Yeah, and after that, you're like, well, there's only can go up from here, right? So it's kind of like this ultra-violent film. And, it reminds me of this little funny story. I had a friend of mine, and he was going on a date with this girl that he had known for a while, and he didn't know he wanted to take her to the movies, and he didn't know what to take her to see. So he's looking at what's playing, and the movie Bruno was playing. Remember, Bruno?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah. I didn't know that movie.
And he didn't quite know what it was, so he takes this girl in there and to see it. And right around when they had the whole where he was showing the people his show, remember they had a test audience in the film, and they were like, "This is awful. What is this crap?" Well, the girl was more on the religious side, and she goes, "I can't watch any more of this." And so he takes her out out of the theater, right? And he forgot where he parked his car. So he's trying to walk around Philadelphia, trying to figure out where he parked his car.
Because of the trauma. He's just like, oh my God, I took a girl to this film. Oh my God, what have I done?
And it was just hilarious because now she's upset already, and now he can't find the car. And he's like, I think I parked it down here, or was it? Oh my, I forget. And finally, like about an hour later, they found the car, and he goes, "She never called me again."
Oh my goodness!
It's a long ride home.
I feel better now. Thanks for the story, Dave. Thanks.
No problem at all, Kevin. Usually my stories help build people up.
I am. I'm feeling much better about myself.
So after you both graduate from college, when is it that you both decide to take the trip out to Los Angeles?
It was after her residency in Michigan. She worked in Kalamazoo, Michigan, through Michigan State, and we had left North Carolina to go there, and it was, I don't know, I guess that was step one, and
basically he went to Michigan with me because we knew no one, and for me to pursue my dream of pediatrics. And then when I was done with that, I was like, well, there are kids you can take care of worldwide. Where are we going for you next? And he's like, Los Angeles. I'm like, well, let's do it. So that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, so then we hopped in a truck and head out to Beverly.
We did.
So you actually drove the whole way there?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
So what was that like? Because I've had a couple other people I know who have just taken that trek and they've driven across the country. So what was that like for the both of you?
It was cool because we met with family and stuff.
Yeah, we met with family in Colorado.
Yeah,
and,
hung out in Denver. Then her brother was living in Vegas at the time, so it was kind of cool because it was going to take the truck like 4 days to get there or something. So we had a little time, and we took my car. We rode through the Rockies, and I grew up in North Carolina with mountains around, but not like the Rockies, so that was amazing. So it was a beautiful drive. It was a beautiful drive, and it was cool, and a little bit of excitement, going out to a new state.
Yeah, it was back in the day when you had CDs, so we just pop in a CD and hit the road, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So that's actually pretty cool. So how long did it take you total to get out there? Did you actually so it sounds like you spaced it out for a while rather than do a marathon just drive to get there.
Yeah, we weren't the kind of people that were like, we got to get a certain number of miles done in a day. It was, you're just riding along, listening to music, and I guess, 4 days?
I think it was either 4 or 5 days.
Because we spent a day and maybe day and a half in Denver, and then day and a half in Vegas. And but might have been a week. I have no idea. It was a while back, but we did take our time, and we got to see parts of the country I'd never seen before, so that was kind of cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. So when you finally get out to LA, did you already have a place to stay, or did you sort of get out there and have somebody to stay with at that point?
We actually went to Huntington Beach. That's where Jen got her first job. So I do remember having never been to California when we first got there, and we lived only a mile or so from the beach. So we hopped in the car. We didn't have anything in the apartment because the truck wasn't there yet. So it was like, well, nothing here. Let's go see the town. And we're like, oh my God, let's go to the beach. And this is in July or June.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, it's all sunny during the day or whatever. And we went down to the beach, and it was probably 58 that night. We froze our, can I say asses?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Our asses off. So it was like, all right, cool. We saw the beach. Let's get back in the car. Yeah, let's go get something to eat.
Right. We just moved from snowy Michigan, and we're like, oh my gosh, what did we do? But it just gets cold here at night. That's all. Well, relatively speaking.
Yeah, it's like cold Pacific water, cold. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you leave the nice warm weather, and you're like, oh my God, what mistake have we made?
Well, I was used to that East Coast beach water that's 90 degrees,
it's like bath water.
Being at the North Carolina, South Carolina beaches. So I thought it was going to be like that, and oh my, no, it was not.
It's the difference between the two coasts, right?
Yeah.
So when you get out there, and I know, Jennifer, you actually had one of your first jobs out there. So Kevin, while your wife is working a full-time job, did you start to go into movies full-time and sort of use that as a leaping off point?
It was half on, half off. It was temping and writing, but I did quite a bit of writing. The big decision was made to come out here because I had a sci-fi spec script, and I thought it was the next greatest thing, and here's my ticket and all that sort of stuff, and I think I had the move to LA with your script and you'll make it in a couple years kind of mindset, not realizing that it takes a bit longer to do that. But yeah, it was kind of half on, half off. And then gradually over time, it became a full-time deal for me.
So when you actually came out, you had already written a feature-length script, the sci-fi script you were just talking about. So at what, did you use, were you able to use that as like a calling card to get your foot in the door to a couple different places?
Actually, let me think of which one was, it actually, yeah, that one was the one. Now that I think about it, it never moved into production, but it actually did well in Nichols, I think in like 2006 or 2005, something like that. But it never picked up, and I'm actually rewriting it now. So it wasn't necessarily a calling card, but I moved on to other projects from there and kept on writing, and different things kind of got picked up at different times and got interest.
So were you able to sort of use that, and they would say, hey, Kevin, we like the way you write, could you write something else, maybe for us, something like that?
It was more the line you get, it was like, wow, I really like the writing in this, but it wasn't for us, but would it be okay if we contacted you down the line? And I'm like, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And then they didn't contact me. So, but there's always stories like that with scripts and writing and so
just part of the biz.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. I thought you were going to tell me, Kev, that they asked you, so what else do you got? And you were like, well, because I had a friend of mine who that happened to him, where he got his foot in the door, he had a script, and they actually asked him, what else do you have, or what else you got? And he had nothing else to show him.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I did this one. Come on. Yeah, it's generally a plan when you're going out with spec scripts or whatever. You have to answer that question before you go out. And that's continually a thing. The one I was saying that I came out here with, and I said I'm rewriting that one now. That's basically coupled with another sci-fi that actually optioned this week, but I'm pretty happy about that. So that would be the kind of companion there. Like, all right, this is cool. What else you got? Well, here you go. So, but it takes time to get that enough scripts that you have that option.
Yeah, and also just to put that portfolio together for any writer, just to put together like even 3, solid pieces of work is a challenge in and of itself, because you're always wondering, how to, because whenever, and I'm sure you had this too, because it happened to me as well. When you go to start writing screenplays or TV pilots or whatever, you say to yourself when you're first starting, you're like, look, I've seen 10,000 TV shows, I've seen 10,000 movies, I know how to write a screenplay, and you kind of start putting this together, and you're like, oh, this is a lot different than I thought it was going to be. It's a lot different, from reverse engineering it. Oh, I've seen every episode of MASH, and I'm going to make a, what I mean? I'm going to just kind of reverse engineer it, and then actually doing it, from the ground up. So. But so did you ever have, when I'm trying to tie in this all together, and did you ever have like a writing group or anything like that to sort of you use as like a feedback meter, or maybe you just give the scripts to like Jennifer and she was like, Kevin, what are you doing here? What is this?
Yeah. Why did we come out here? This is horrible. No, actually, I haven't really been a member of a writing group. I did get involved with this online service that actually has a really great screenwriting competition, a Script Pipeline, and there was a guy there, Dave Klein. He had a lot to do with me being able to elevate ideas and do better, larger budget scripts. And he worked with me on a sci-fi script, and he actually worked with me on the one that optioned. And just the tips that he gave me about how to make ideas better and how to make scripts better were really good. So he would kind of be the writing group. On the independent front, like the independent horror stuff that I've been doing, and I do have a feature that I'm finishing up with that. I've had people read it. I've had, luckily I know quite a few talented actors, and they came in and did a script read and illustrated what needed to change, what was good, and I rewrote based off of that. But not technically a writing group, but Jen does read my stuff and she does give notes, but not as much as before.
Yeah, I'm not sure how helpful it is because basically I just put smiley faces by the stuff I
That's
like.
when I know I really nailed the scene, Dave. So I get a smiley face. I'm like, yes.
So Jen's not like busting out like a red pen and being like so crossing out like.
No, it used to be like that, but it just created tension in the marriage, and there's no real need for that. So yeah, it's like, why don't you love me? It's like, why don't you love my script?
No, I just look for typos and put the stuff I like nowadays. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, and smiley faces. It does make you feel good when you get a smiley face at the end.
Yeah, that does sound a lot better than my red pen idea. Because I used to be that guy who whenever you would hand me a script to read, I would always bust out the red pen and I would make notes. Like I wasn't, and then somebody was like, you know how obnoxious you're being by doing this? And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be obnoxious. I said, it's just, to me, it's easier to read on it's a white piece of paper with black font. And I said, it's just easier to read,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but it hurts our feelings, man. We're sensitive writers, man. We can't take too much.
Yeah, I mean, like when I used to hand in my stuff, I would get all sorts of feedback, and there was one guy who just hated every single thing that I would write, and he would just be like, he would write stuff to me like, I don't know what's going on here, he's like, he didn't really say some people, and that was him being nice to me, because some people he would write things like, I'm bored, and one person. He wrote on the front of the paper, front of the script, no, and that was it.
Oh, man. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah, I was like...
No, go into another line of work. This just isn't for you.
Yeah, I was like, man, I thought I was getting it bad. I was like, God, but he was thinking, he must have either liked me or at least liked the stuff at some point, because I didn't get it that bad.
Right.
Oh, man.
So, at this point, Kevin, you moved on and you started working with Jose Rivera, and you started working for him, right? And you started, because by the way, I have your bio open. Just so you know.
Jose, yeah, he's one of the best writers in America. I was a director of development with the company, so it was kind of trying to get packaging together with one of the scripts that he had written, and working on. Basically, my job was to make the project look good to potential investors, and then just kind of having a couple conversations with him. But yeah, it was a job where we developed projects from those writers, and Donald Harrington was on there too, and that was just my job was to make their projects look enticing to investors.
And so, like, you would, maybe you would get the book and sort of, like, read it over a weekend and maybe make notes and say, hey, this would be a good property, and then maybe put together a pitch packet, stuff like that?
Yeah. With the Harrington book, I read it, and I was like, hey, I think we should do this. The producer was like, I think we should, and then she handled the optioning of the material and all that, and then it was my job to find writers for it. So went out to different agencies, got recommendations, and it was one of those things where just things didn't come in line, and that book never got off the ground. But it was a pretty awesome piece of material. So you never know. I left that company, and they may still have it on their slate. Not really sure, but I mean, it would be a pretty cool movie.
Yeah, because that's the big thing now, right? Everything is pretty much an existing property, and most of the movies you see in theaters now, they're based off a graphic novel, they're based off an existing property, like all these superhero movies, or in this case, they're based off of a book, which you see a lot of more movies coming out, where they're already based on something. So you figure something like this would be, like a perfect project, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like for to make a movie out of it.
Yeah, actually, not just with superhero movies. We watched a movie which is really great. It's a horror film called The Ritual, and that was based off of a book. I don't know. I thought that was like an original spec idea, but no, that was based off of a book. So, yeah, it's when you have IP, it really helps out with the marketing of the film, because you have a built-in audience, and the bigger the built-in audience, the bigger the film. So I get it from that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Hunger Games, once that series and obviously the Harry Potter series. I mean, that series was a gold mine even before they made it into movies.
Yeah, I remember when in that DoD job, I remember when Twilight got set up, and I remember talking to my boss, and I was like, oh my God, we need to get a YA property. People are going to be lined up around the block to see this film. And then it just, it took off even bigger than I thought it was going to be. But that was kind of, I think this was 2007 or so that I had this job, 2008, around in that range. And it's just kind of grown from there. Having books being the kind of the source for your larger budget movies and your like 3-4 different movies in a series and all that.
Yeah, and because that's something, and that's just some of the things I've noticed more and more, is that a lot of these things are based off of books. Even like, I was going through all the Best Picture nominees for this year's Academy Awards, and I'm like, which ones are actually based upon, IPs and which ones are original ideas. And then you got to take it and then say, well, what movies have actually done well in the box office, versus what they've done. So, the more the IP that you have to back you up. I mean, right now, as we're recording this, Black Panther's #1. Black Panther's a, intellectual property. And then Jumanji was a remake, and then that was #1. I mean, we can go on and on, but it's like that seemed to be like the thing,
Yeah, pretty much. You can get a lot of advertising dollars behind an IP as well, because of that built-in audience, and I think that boosts up your sales as well. It's tougher for a spec script, even if it's something that would have a larger budget, just because you don't have that brand name knowledge. So it's a tipped scale, so to speak, in favor of the books.
So, as we sort of, continue on with your journey, going through LA, at this point you started writing screenwriting full time, and you started doing screenwriting full time, and you were a Nicole Fellowship finalist. You were on the script pipeline, and then I also saw you were on the 2014 Young and Hungry list. So yes. when you were on these lists, Kevin, like at what point? I mean, was there at some point like, were you getting agents and managers that were coming after you saying like, hey, Kevin, are you represented? Were they trying to set things up for you in a way, like meaning that if you come to them, they had more contacts that could help you get, something funded? The one that landed me on the Young and Hungry list, interesting story. All that happened. It was a tracking board recommend. Tracking board is a site, an online site that basically says what's going on in the industry. I was just looking at it today, and it's all like announcements, everything from jobs in the industry to reviews of films to announcements of attachments in movies, and Michael Fassbender is starring in this, or he just signed on to do this. So it really keeps you up to date on everything that's going on in the town. And they have contests. They have the Launchpad competition for screenplays, and they also have the Tracking Board Recommend. And that one, there's not as many awarded. But I got that in 2014 with a script called The Memory Sphere, and I had a manager, and then the manager handled the taking it out to agents and all that. And unfortunately, I think the interesting thing with that script is the budget on it wasn't big enough to be one of those let's go into the studios and get that size of budget. So it's kind of an in-between project. It was too big to be an independent feature, and then it was too small to be a big studio feature. So it was kind of in this middle range, and so it got passed on by the people that read it. And then it was kind of just around, and I got the property back, and wasn't with the manager anymore. So then I started marketing myself. And that's the one that optioned this week. So there was a producer that came along and he optioned it. So
And I think that's because the budget hasn't changed on it. I just think the marketplace has changed. And you have places like Netflix and Amazon Studios that would take a movie of this size, or even a movie that's bigger than that, and produce it. So I think that opens up a lot of avenues for writers that write in that budget range. And that's very exciting, because I really was unsure whether that film was going to get made, or if I could get interest back in it. And so we'll see where it goes. An option's one thing, a sale's another thing. So,
yeah, and Netflix, since you brought that up, they've been doing a lot more stuff, their own original programming, which is great. And then just down the line, as we're talking about it anyway, Apple's coming out with their own original content. And then, what I heard the next big thing is, Kevin, by the way, in original content? It's going to be creating content for people while they're driving in their autonomous cars.
Oh, my God. Whoa!
Wow, I want to go there.
Yeah, so you watch a TV show on your way to work. You're being driven to work. Is that what that is?
Oh.
Correct. And basically, they would be specifically where you could only watch it inside your car.
Yes.
So that would be the hook of it. So like if you made a partnership with, like, let's just say Dodge or BMW or something, they're only on their channel where you can watch inside the car. At first, that would be the thing. I'm sure they probably expand it where you could probably watch it with whatever, but that would be the thing where their programming would just be for people who have their car.
Oh man, that's cool.
I just thought of a sci-fi movie, dude. You just like everybody's riding along in these cars. It's like 10 years from now, and everybody's just staring at a screen, but they're being fed like all this information, and they're being mind controlled. Yeah, my paranoia got the best of me there. It's a cool outlet for product.
Yeah, and that sounds like the episode of Black Mirror.
I did. I've been watching too much Black Mirror because I went too dark on that. Yeah, sorry if I stole your thunder there, man.
No, it's all good, because it's kind of like, everyone has their own news channel now. So what actually happened? What's the actual news? What's fact? What's not?
So true.
Yeah, I would need one that was just like tell me good stuff about me. Just stare at a screen. You're good enough. You're smart enough. You can do it today on the job.
That's it. That sounds like
Kevin.
Hey, that sounds great. You know what I mean? Like usually, if you watch too much bad news, I mean, they actually did a report on this. If you watched, and this is obvious, if you watch too much bad news, you start to have a bleak outlook on everything. You know what I mean? And then suddenly you're kind of like, well, everything sucks.
Yeah. I've the Facebook timelines, the thing that I just went to there. Sometimes I just like, I can't do it. I can't look at anything else.
Yeah,
the world's not a horrible place.
Yeah, that also was part of it too. Was just the whole social media aspect of it, where it's like I can share something and it doesn't necessarily need to be true. It could be some person with an opinion, and they kind of make it look like a news channel. You know what I mean? Like is your spouse, does he have a microchip in his brain? And you're like, what?
That's scary stuff, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hot.
So, just going back to you, Kevin, sorry, I'm going off on like this Black Mirror episode now, but just going back to you,
let's pitch it. Let's make it. Let's make it happen, man.
Yeah, seriously. Right. So in 2015, you actually started Sunshine Boy Productions, which I think is a really good idea. Cause again, just going back to original content, I think, the more control you have, the better. And I've talked to different guests about this, and there's always a different opinion and different varying viewpoints of this. But I really like that you started your own company, because I started my own company too.
Cool.
Just to make it gives you a little more leeway on things. But so you started. So at one point, did you started your first short film, Play Violet for Me? And you actually got a director and everything on board. So, at what point did you wanted to produce something, and then just sort of, what was that impetus for you to finally say, all right, this is the year I'm just going to produce something?
Tying in with the story from before is like, the Young and Hungry list and the getting the award and then having a ton of people pass in Hollywood. I was kind of like, man, I just want to get something on screen. just want to get something on screen. And my friend Matt Mercer is a talented director, and we were at a friend's birthday party. Actually, I remember that's where I pitched Play Violet for me, and I knew nothing about how to produce a film. I had no clue. I'd just been a writer up to that point, and I was like, I didn't know how much it was going to cost, and I didn't know, I knew I knew what the idea was going to be, sort of. But I pitched it, and he was like, well, yeah, let's put it together. And he told me how much it would cost. I was like, oh, wow, because you can really put a movie together, a quality movie together for not a lot of money. And so I was like, well, that's worth the investment. And once we had actually shot the film and got everything together, that's when I was kind of like, oh, wow, I guess I'm a producer now. I learned how to deal with SAG. I learned how to do the paperwork. I learned how to, get people on board to star in a film. And then I was like, oh, wow, I guess that's producing. I don't know. So after that, because I had the executive producer title on the thing, I was like, well, let's have a company and, form that with Jen, and the rest is history.
So Jen, what did Kevin pitch this to you and say, I want to start my own company, and you were kind of like, what are you thinking? Are you going crazy?
Actually, I think it was the opposite. I mean, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was like, we should start a company. Let's do this, because
now the truth comes out. Now the truth comes out. It was actually her idea, Dave. I was just like, man, I thought I could fake it.
No. What happened was, again, I was like Kevin. I knew nothing about filmmaking. And we were on set for Play Violet for me all day. And basically, I was just like in awe. I was just taking pictures and just watching it all unfold, and just watching just these incredible, talented human beings say the lines that my husband wrote. I was hooked. I love being on set. I love that experience. And after we went through the festival run, I was like, well, I think this is really great, and I would really like to do more of it, and I want to see more of your work on screen. And so just kind of came about like that. And I was like, I've done some other startup things, other projects for my other work for pediatrics, and so I had a little bit of knowledge and how to at least get things going. And we just looked into starting our small business and just incorporated actually this month. So so here we are.
So as sort of you've gone along with this, Jennifer, and you became the director of marketing, what's some of the challenges that you've seen thus far with just, marketing, different short films, different movies, just with the current social media climate and everything with the way it is?
I guess the biggest challenge for me was just learning how to do it, because I obviously didn't have any background, any training in it. But I really love learning new things. So it started out first with web design. I wanted to see if I could make a website, and there's all these wonderful platforms out there. I ended up going with Squarespace because they just have these beautiful templates and wonderful customer service, because I knew I was going to need a lot of help building the first one. And then it just went from there. I thought, well, okay, we've got this presence online. What's another way of inexpensive advertising? And it's through social media, and it's readily available. It's free. So then I learned how to manage Twitter, and then just worked on the Facebook pages, and then Instagram came after that. So as far as the current social media climate, I think we're kind of far removed from, a lot of the negativity that's out there in the current climate, because we're a short film producing company working our way up to features, and our movies don't really have any specific sort of political message or anything like that. They're all about entertainment, horror, sci-fi, neo-noir. So unfortunately, I've been very far removed. I was concerned, honestly, when I first started on Twitter about what I might experience, and you see all these negative comments on the television screen. Whatever you're watching, you'll see some really, really nasty people out there. But I've been pretty far removed from it. We try and keep our messages positive and not respond to the negative stuff. So I think that helps. So I've been pretty fortunate not to have to experience much of that yet.
So, also though, as part of the climate, what I was actually, I'm sorry, I should have clarified. What I was actually referring to was just because everything is a little crowded out nowadays. I know there is trolls and things can get negative, but there is so many people out there on Twitter now, different filmmakers. Everyone has a podcast. So I was just wondering, some of the how do you get your message out there? I mean, so what are some of the things that you've learned with, how to sort of cut through all the noise?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's my fault. I actually should have been much more specific.
No, that's good. I guess I just sort of let things happen organically. I ended up connecting with some filmmakers on Twitter and just promoting their stuff on our site. And they ended up just promoting some of our stuff. And then I ended up we met Lillian through Twitter, Lillian Sue, our unit publicist who connected us with you. So I think we just sort of put a positive message out there. And I like to tweet stuff about behind the scenes and the stills and just the beautiful pictures that the wonderful cinematographers we've worked with have created. So just sort of putting that out there and seeing what comes back. We've just been pretty lucky to connect with some people. Yeah, so I actually haven't had a real targeted goal, except for specific instances, like when we go to a particular festival or we have a trailer to put out. So I do have a targeted approach for that, but in general, I'm just trying to connect with other filmmakers, and that's sort of worked for us.
So what have you had the most success with in terms of social media? Have you had the most success with YouTube or Instagram or Twitter?
We haven't forayed into YouTube yet. I have not had the time to honestly to get that together, unfortunately, with my other full-time work. That's one of my goals. I think probably we've had the biggest success on Twitter, simply because Play Violet, for me, our first film, is a noir, and it's such a small genre that has rabid fans, but they're a small number of them. So I think that's where I was able to connect with people the most, is tweeting about noir, reaching out about noir, talking to people about noir and noir sites. So we ended up getting several reviews based on that we would not have before, because that was our very first film for a brand new company. So I feel like that's where I had some success, and I guess the biggest claim to fame is that Oscar Isaac actually ended up watching Play Violet for me, and that was through Twitter. That was through Twitter. So,
that was
yeah. It was a direct message back and forth between myself and another screenwriter who was working on a project in Texas, and we were just chatting about Violet, and he liked it, and he complimented the writing, and I was like, well, that's so rare. Like, no, people don't compliment the writing; they compliment everything else about a film, but most people don't mention the writing. And I said, thanks, that's awesome, and I passed it on to Kevin. He's going to be really happy to hear that. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm a screenwriter too. So we started talking about his projects back and forth, and then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I grew up with Oscar Isaac, and he sent me some pictures of them when they grew up, and he's like, yeah, he watched it and thought it was cool. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. Yeah, so that's Twitter, I think, has been the biggest support for our film so far in our company.
Yeah, it just goes to show you the power of social media, or the power of Twitter, I should say. I always, I'm a big fan of Twitter. I actually meet most people through Twitter. I met Lillian through Twitter. So it's very, very, social media, it's all just a tool. You just have to know how to wield it.
Yeah.
So, and last year, Kevin, just to go back to the entire Sunshine Boy productions, you actually directed your first film, which was Heartless. So, and you're hitting the festival circuit now, right?
Yes. Yeah. We just had our world premiere last weekend in Oxford, Mississippi. Awesome festival. It went great. And, I couldn't be happier. It's rolling along.
So, what finally decided, what finally made you decide to sort of go, behind the camera and direct your first film?
I had written, a horror, feature. And a couple of my friends were like, hey, you should direct this. And at first I was like, are you crazy? That's crazy. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, okay, maybe. So then I talked to a couple of director friends of mine, and they of course recommended that I do a short just to see and kind of like build my way up. And then I was just kind of like, all right, well, let's see what we can do. I had the idea for the short. I was on another friend's set and had the idea for the Poe adaptation that I turned into Heartless. And I guess as far as like just getting my feet wet or whatever, I had to talk to some people and get some suggestions, and then I just dove into it, and I'd written the script, and people. I guess the biggest thing was nobody told me no. Nobody was like, "Are you crazy, dude? What's going on?" It's like, "There's no way you can do this." Everybody was so supportive, and they were like, "Yeah," and everybody I talked to hopped on board, and that really helped out.
Yeah, it's kind of like your network is your net worth.
Yeah, really, and I've been very fortunate in having the group around me in Los Angeles, all these just incredible independent filmmakers, and I had help everywhere, so that was very good, especially when you're doing your first directorial effort. It's daunting, but it can be done. And I also have a wonderful wife that like calmed me down when I was freaking out, like a week before we went into shooting. But it was a really, really great experience.
So what was the biggest obstacle then? Because this was your first directorial movie. So what was like the biggest obstacle that you faced?
Well, it's an adaptation of The Telltale Heart by Poe, and I didn't want to. The way I looked at it, I was like, if you want to do Poe, go big or go home. So I put quite a bit of blood and gore into it, and this required shooting in a way, and we shot for 3 days, but shooting in a way that you could do 7 blood effect sequences in that amount of time. And that was a challenge just logistically, but I had really great blood experts on set, and they took care of that. I think the biggest thing was just scheduling and getting 11 pages shot with these kind of intricate sequences in there. But once again, I had people around me that, my DP had directed films, my gaffer had directed films, my grip had directed films. It's like at any given time, I had 4 or 5 directors on set. So I had a great network of people that I could talk to and help me through that. So I would say, outside of the blood effects, the biggest challenge was like scheduling in a day and making sure that you get the shots but that worked out.
So like you didn't have any actors no show or anything like that?
No, not. It's cool. It's like you were talking about social media. It's like I cast the thing entirely through Facebook, and there were people that I knew. Stacy's a good friend, and we had worked with her on a short that we produced before this called Feeding Time, and she was the one that I wanted for that role. Reached out to her, got her. Joanna I had met several years earlier, but had never really talked to. But that was a Facebook message I sent to her and sent her the script, and she signed on. I think the entire casting for the film probably took about 45 minutes. It was just a series of Facebook messages and people that I had met, and then they read the script. 45 minutes as far as like my part. But yeah, it's just kind of like when you have a network and you have people that you can go to, it's really helpful. And then Matt's in it, and Matt's like one of my best friends. So it's like, hey, dude, want to do it? Yeah, cool. He signed on. So yeah, no cast problems, no divas, nothing like that. They were awesome to work with, which is really cool as a first time director to not have any of that kind of conflict. But no, they were awesome, and they were great with working with me and having patience with me, and then it worked out.
Yeah, you definitely dodged a bullet there. Because I mean, we've all heard horror stories. I mean, hell, it's happened to me where I've had a film and you cast actors and they go, "Oh, that was today." I'm like, man, you don't. What the amount of emails and texts I've been sending you, man? Come on.
Yeah, that's bad.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no. I feel very fortunate. I will thank all of them when I see them next.
Yeah, you'd be like, hey, I was talking to this guy, Dave, and he was telling me horror stories. And they're going to be like, who's Dave? Who the hell is that?
Yeah. I just go up and hug them. Just be like, oh, thank you for not doing that. No, they were awesome. It was fun. It was good. And they were all energetic about it. And they really, really did a great job. And we just got a review this week, and it was talking about the acting in the film. So they were tremendous.
See, and that's good, man, because they always say good or bad acting is always the result of good or bad directing.
Well, cool.
Yeah, see,
I think it would go the opposite way too. That it really is. It does reflect very well on you when you get the talent in there and they do their job and just kill it, and then all of a sudden, wow, you're a good director. It's like, well, I had great talent.
Yeah, and that's the key to directing, right? Is good
so,
script,
yeah.
good script, good actors, and then good cinematographer, and then you look like a genius. And,
Exactly. Yeah. I came from a retail management background, and when I was talking to Jen about how I wanted to put the thing together, I always harken back to that, and it was amazing how much better a manager I was when the staff was better. It's like when I wasn't having staffing problems, when it's just an interesting thing when you surround yourself with really, really great workers and great people. Then all of a sudden you're so much better at your job.
Yeah, it's so true, and it allows you to focus. So you're not constantly like on the phone going, "Hey, where are you?" Or what's going. Now I got to go to plan Z now because I've already gone through plans, A through Y. So it's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's just you're kind of now you can actually focus, and again, you look like a good manager.
Yeah. I've said it on like the speech to the cast and crew on the last day of filming or whatever. But I mean, they just all from actors to AC to AD to every single job on that film, for us to get it done in the time that we got it done, with all the different things that we need to do with the everything. If one person hadn't pulled their weight, then we have to go back with shoot pickups. We have to do that. It's really a credit to just how great that cast and crew were. That I didn't have to do 4 or 5 takes on scenes. I didn't have to adjust because the camera person wasn't doing their job. It's like that wasn't the worry, which really, that made it a much more enjoyable experience, and a much more it just made it go better. It's a credit to them. They were an incredible cast and crew.
Yeah, and to see that's awesome. And I'm glad you could take that experience and keep parlaying that. And I know you mentioned you're eventually going to make a feature. So so I know Kevin, Jennifer, I know we've been talking for 45 minutes now. Is there anything you want to say to sort of put a period at the end of this whole conversation, or maybe just say something or anything you want to discuss that we haven't had a chance to yet?
Yeah, I guess we could just talk about where to find us. So we have websites, as we've already discussed. SunshineBoyProductions.com have all of our short films on there, and HeartlessMovie.com is the new one coming out. It just had its world premiere at Oxford, and we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We love to connect with people, so I'd be really happy to do that.
And we're setting off on the festival trail. We have 3 more festivals coming up. We have we're going to be at Nevermore in Durham this weekend or next weekend.
This weekend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
next weekend.
Not now. Next weekend. Yeah.
And then after that, we have our West Coast premiere at the NoHo Cinefest, which is an amazing festival. It's got a great horror lineup in that block. And then after that, we're going to Chattanooga. And I haven't ever been there, so I'm just super excited about that one.
So when you're at these film festivals, do you actually fly out or do you drive out?
Fly. The ones here drive too. But yeah, we fly out.
Okay, I was just wondering, honestly, because I imagined, driving across the country a couple times, you're like, all right, it's cool, but now, like, we're getting into double digits now, and it's kind of like, drive. I had a friend of mine who actually drove. The reason I always asked that question is, I had a friend of mine who actually drove from here in Pennsylvania out to Nevada, and. Oh. And he was, but he went on like this whole tour of doing different things, and he was driving. I want to say it was Iowa or Wyoming, and he said it all started to hit him as he was driving out there, and he goes, it was just like a flat area. It was all completely flat, and he's like, I just saw the same things, like it was kind of like a prairie, and then a farm, and then a little bit. And then it was like just open grassland, like a prairie. So it was like prairie farm, and he goes, it starts to mess with your mind, and you're like,
we've done that drive actually. I know the part of the country he's talking about. That's on the way out from Michigan. We drove through there.
Yeah, I think doing that for for weeks and weeks would be really. I don't think our marriage would last that long. We gotta fly.
Now you did mention it. Was we with Feeding Time, the short film before Heartless. I did actually go on a road trip with Matt, and we drove from here to Provo, Utah. Now that was pretty cool, but that's not like all the way across the country. That was a 10-hour drive, and it was awesome. That was fun. Listen to music, chat with your friend. That was great.
Oh, that's all. Yeah, see, that's awesome. It's awesome when you can go with a friend. Because even when I take a trip out to Pittsburgh, it's like 4 hours, and it really helps if everyone's into the trip. You know what I mean? And everyone's and it just it makes it go a little easier. When the last time I went, it was snowing as we were getting into Pittsburgh, and we were more concentrating on not dying. Because I was like, I think you're going a little fast, and he's like, don't tell me how to drive. I'm like, all right. It's just. It's this crazy journey, right? So everyone, I will link to everything that Kevin, Jennifer, and I talked about in the show notes at davebullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis, and the podcast is at DB Podcast. Kevin and Jennifer, I want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us, man. This was a blast.
That was so fun.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.